It was Christmas Eve, and the cold December wind howled through the narrow streets, rattling the icicles that clung stubbornly to rooftops. The town square shimmered under strings of festive lights, and the smell of roasted chestnuts filled the air. Despite the cheerful atmosphere, my thoughts were heavy, my heart weighed down by the looming reality of an empty wallet. Hello, my name is Oliver, and what I'm about to share happened in 2019. I was 19 years old, working part-time at a small departmental store that barely paid enough to scrape by. Life wasn't easy. My father left before I was born, and my mother died in a car accident when I was 6. My uncle took me in, but with 3 children of his own, money was always tight. He did his best, but there were nights we all went to bed with rumbling stomachs. I had recently met my girlfriend, and she had this dream of us decorating a Christmas tree together, just the 2 of us. I wanted to make her happy, but I was broke. I had already spent my last paycheck on bills, and payday was still weeks away. I felt terrible because I promised her I'd bring a tree. One chilly evening at work, as snow softly fell outside, my colleague, who had been coughing all day, asked if I could handle unloading the delivery truck alone. He looked pale and exhausted. I agreed without hesitation, even though it meant staying late. After finishing the delivery, I found myself drawn to the basement storage area. It was my first time down there. Dust hung in the air, catching the faint beams of the flickering overhead light. The basement felt forgotten, filled with old seasonal decorations and neglected stock. That's when I saw it. An old Christmas tree standing in the corner, draped in cobwebs and shadow. But even through the dust, it looked stunning. Its branches were adorned with antique glass ornaments, delicate gold tinsel that glistened faintly, and small metal bells that jingled softly when I stepped closer. Something about it felt strange. The air around it was colder, heavier. But I ignored the uneasy feeling bubbling in my chest. A plan began to form in my mind. No one had touched the tree in years. I convinced myself it was forgotten, abandoned. What harm would it do to take it? There were no security cameras in the basement. The silence was absolute. I pried open a small window near the ground and carefully pushed the tree through. The branches scraped against the window frame, sounding unnervingly like soft whispers. After locking up, I circled around the building, retrieved the tree from the snow, and tied it to my bicycle. The ride home felt longer than usual. The streets were empty, the lights above flickering. I kept glancing over my shoulder, but no one was there. Yet I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. That night I crept into the house quietly. Everyone was asleep. I propped the tree in my room, brushed off the dust, and marveled at its eerie beauty. I called my girlfriend to tell her about it, excitement flickering in my voice. I snapped a few pictures and sent them to her. She was asleep, so she didn't see them immediately. I lay on my bed, scrolling through the photos I had just taken, proud of my find. That's when my heart stopped. In one of the photos, behind the tree, there was a faint, white figure. It was blurred, as if it had just shifted out of frame. I stared at it for what felt like hours, unable to look away. I tried to dismiss it as a trick of the light, but deep down I felt cold dread creeping over me. The next day, my girlfriend came over. We decorated the tree together, draping lights and ornaments over its branches. For a while, everything felt normal, but as the hours passed, things started to change. The ornaments began to sway gently, even though the windows were shut. A soft whispering sound filled the room, too faint to understand, but constant enough to leave me unsettled. That night, as the clock struck 3 a.m., I woke to the sound of faint footsteps circling my bed. My heart pounded against my ribs. The air felt heavy, suffocating. I turned my head slowly. The tree stood in the corner, but I swear it had moved closer. The ornaments dangled unnaturally, and the shadow of the tree stretched across the floor, far longer and it should have. I tried to convince myself it was all in my head, but the next morning, my girlfriend called, her voice shaking. She had finally looked at the pictures I sent. In one of them, the white figure wasn't just standing there, it was staring directly at the camera, with hollow, black eyes and a twisted grin. Terrified, I decided to return the tree to the basement. That evening, after work, I made my way to the store. But when I arrived, the basement door was already open. Inside, the tree was back in its original place, standing in the exact spot I had taken it from. Its branches were covered in dust once more, as if it had never left. If you enjoyed this story, please like the video and subscribe to my channel, Dark Spoken.